Okay, welcome to video 2 of the Middle East Review. This video, we're going to focus on ancient empires. It's going to be quick, short and sweet, and just a reminder of a couple of things that we looked at in ancient Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Once again, this is video 2 of 4. This will be pretty short. This location, just to the northwest of the Persian Gulf into the Mediterranean Sea, is the main region that we are looking at. And we are looking at a couple of key civilizations that established the culture of our Middle Eastern countries today, especially with the Assyrians establishing the culture of what is present-day Iran. So once again, the civilizations we'll look at are the Sumerians, the first empire of the Akkadians, the organized laws of the Babylonians, the warlike tactics of the early Iranians, which are identified as the Assyrians, Babylonians Part 2, when we look at King Nebuchadnezzar, who is made famous in the Bible and from your theological studies, and then briefly over the tolerance and leadership of the Persians. Okay, so once again, we have the earliest civilization, the world's first civilization, finally settled after the Neolithic Revolution and the beginning of farming, would be the Sumerians. And the Sumerians are located here just to the north of the Tigris River, and then in between the Tigris and Euphrates River. Sumer, famous for being along the Persian Gulf. This is present-day Kuwait, a little bit of Iran, and present-day Iraq. So it's the world's first civilization. At the center of each of their city-states, we had a tiered pyramid, 7 stories tall, known as the ziggurat. That's where everything took place, including worship of their gods. And since we say gods, that means they have more than one god. They're polytheistic. And we ask ourselves, how do we know so much about the Sumerians? And there's 2 answers. First off, archaeological digs, where we have found artifacts as well as fossils from this area. And then also from the great book, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which I misspelled on the slide. They misspelled a lot of things in the book. A lot of the tablets are missing. Once again, the worst book that I've ever read, but also considered to be the world's first book. So that is Gilgamesh. Add the M in there. If you want to read it, God bless you. The Sumerians were conquered by a group from the north known as the Akkadians. That guy up there is Sargon of Akkad. He is the first emperor. So the Akkadians are the first empire. Sargon is the world's first emperor. An empire is a group of previously independent territories that are brought under the leadership of one ruler. And that one ruler was Sargon. But Sargon wasn't too worried about ruling the people. He was more interested in conquering. And eventually led to civil war. Civil war led to vulnerability. Vulnerability led to attacks. And eventually we have a new group known as the Amorites conquering them. The Amorites established the capital city of Babylon and are more popularly known as the Babylonians. This is the Babylonian Empire, Part 1. The Babylonian Empire, Part 1, they are famous for a unified government, the capital city of Babylon, and Hammurabi's Code. King Hammurabi was the individual that brought a unified code of laws that was actually written down for this empire. And Hammurabi's Code of Law is famous for the saying, eye for an eye. Once again, the capital was Babylon. But when the Babylonians were captured or taken over, King Sennacherib moves from the Assyrians, moves into the area, burns the city of Babylon, tears everything down, and the famous saying is that no eye was left to weep. So Sennacherib not only burned everything down, but also killed everybody that was there. However, many of the Babylonians moved south into the area of Chaldea prior to the burning of the city. The burning of Babylon tells us quite a bit about the Assyrians. The Assyrians are the next group to take over leadership of the area of Mesopotamia. They're a very warlike group. They do not gain a lot of allies with their treatment of conquered people. The present-day country of Iran views the Assyrian Empire's kings as their forefathers. So as we view George Washington and those who fought in the American Revolution as the leaders of our country, the Assyrians look back to Sennacherib, Ashurbanipal, the famous leaders of the Assyrians as their founding fathers. And they're very, very warlike. Killed everybody, tortured a lot, burned the capital city of Babylon. But because of their treatment of others, they eventually came under attack. Their capital city was Nineveh, in which they built a great library. When that library is burnt down, that's when we find the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Assyrians are invaded on two fronts, north from the Medians and south from the Chaldeans. These were the Babylonians that previously ran away. They fight the Assyrians on a two-front war. The best way to fight a two-front war is you don't do it. The Babylonians that had moved to Chaldea take back over. They conquer the Assyrians, reestablish the capital of Babylon, and eventually fall under the leadership of this guy, King Nebuchadnezzar. Now, you've looked at King Nebuchadnezzar in your theology class, and he's also made famous in the Bible. He was a very romantic man, built a gift for his wife known as the Hanging Gardens, and he also built a large ziggurat. In order to build these things, he needed labor. In order to get labor, he enslaved everybody that he had conquered. King Nebuchadnezzar is the individual for the Babylonians that conquers the area of Canaan, the promised land for the Jews. When he goes into Canaan, he is not tolerant of religion, destroys their temple, and then forces the Jews to move to Babylon. When the Jews are forced to move to Babylon, this event is known as the Babylonian captivity. And another time when the Jews are thrown into slavery. Not only were they enslaved in Egypt before the Exodus, but now they are enslaved in Babylon. They eventually will be liberated by an outside force known as the Persians. The Persians are considered to be the greatest empire of the ancient world prior to the Greeks and Romans. Their greatest leader is Cyrus the Great. He was the guy that would conquer others and then go pray with them in their temple. Cyrus eventually will conquer the Babylonians. He will liberate the Jews, allow the Jews to move back to the area of Canaan, and not only allows them to move back to the area of Canaan, but he rebuilt the temple for the Jewish people. Cyrus was considered to be a great leader. He unified a large area of land from what is present-day India all the way through Egypt and present-day Turkey. It's the largest empire of that time. And his organized government and tolerance of others prevented any sort of rebellion. However, after he died, not all of his successors were as smart with how they were going to govern the people they already controlled. The Persians will eventually fall into a war with the Greeks that we will talk about at a different date. So once again, a reminder, the Persians tolerant of others, the Babylonians enslaved the Jews, the Assyrians are a very warlike group. The Babylonians also had Hammurabi, eye for an eye. The Akkadians are the first empire, Sumerians, the first civilization. These are the groups that you need to have a decent idea on their main characteristics for Friday's